Hi ladies and gents, just popped on to do a little video about the Lib Dem by-election or the fallout from it. I think if it didn't do anything else, what it did do is give us the indication that Boris Johnson's popularity is going to take us to V8 once we get Christmas over with, and once we see, how Christmas has gone in terms of the spread of COVID and whatnot, and whether it's acted as a circuit breaker or a fire breaker, as some are calling it, whether infections do go down. I think, as I've said in other videos, that we will re-enter lockdown. I think we have to, because I think the science is there telling us to do so. And if the science is there, I'll say it again, as in the other videos, if the science is there, we must obey the science and re-enter lockdown. But a little bit more about the Lib Dems. I'm sure everybody will remember 2010 when Nick Clegg, the then leader of the Lib Dems, sort of sold his party down the river, just to drive around in ministerial cars, wear expensive suits, and just to have a ministerial job. He didn't care what he had to sacrifice. Vince Cable done well out of it, but he was about the only one who did. We don't want a repeat of that, because there was no integrity there. And even though, I'm glad that the Tories are taking a bit of a hammering locally, especially because I think you can do more in local government than you can in national government. I'm glad that the Tories are getting it handed to them in certain areas, but I wouldn't want to see the Lib Dems in power ever again. I mean, I'm only 33, and I'd just like to go back to a time when I was a kid with the Lib Dems. I remember vaguely being about 8 or 9 year old and having a little bit of a understanding of politics, and I remember the late Paddy Ashdown at the time getting a lot of stick for wanting to take in asylum seekers, and that was one of his pledges for his election bid. I think it was in 97 when they were taking on Labour, and of course that didn't go down well, because can you imagine if we had have taken more Bosnians, Kosovans and other nationalities in particular Iraqis, Iranians, if we'd have taken them in at that point in time in the 90s, where, we were still in the Tory economic slumber through austerity, and it took Tony Blair to come in and sort of like revamp things, get some momentum. He lost that momentum, but that's academic. Anyway, going back to Paddy Ashdown, I suppose the Lib Dems' legacy, in many ways, is Paddy Ashdown. I mean, he was sort of a humanitarian, wasn't he, Paddy? He had his flaws. I mean, he had his affairs. The press called him Paddy Pants Down for a while. And he sort of like took a battering in the polls, didn't he? Just like Boris Johnson's going to do. And that's sort of the context I'm basing this video on. But I just think that Boris, I don't think he needs to go. I wouldn't say get him out, although I have said get him out in anger. But if I was a Tory voter, which I'm not, I'm 100% Labour, can not and will not deviate. I wouldn't say I want him to go, but I do think, he needs to make some key decisions and stop, just siding with what makes financial sense. Because there's even rebellion against him within his own party, and they're not rebelling against the decisions he's making necessarily, but they're actually rebelling against him. And obviously that creates a lot of infighting, and he may well, have to bow to pressure. There may well be a vote of confidence like there was in the Labour Party, which with Jeremy Corbyn, which he won twice. But it remains to be seen. But I'm glad the Lib Dems are doing well locally, in a nutshell. I wouldn't want them, as I said, coming back into power. I don't think there's any room for that in society at any point, let alone after or during a pandemic. What does everybody else think? Labour are not much copy either. Keir Starmer sort of like doesn't nail his colours to the mast. He doesn't tell us what he really thinks. He's had many opportunities to, but Sir Keir just likes to sit on the fence. And it doesn't really matter that we're the opposition party helping to get all the bills through Parliament. He just he creates these wonderful opportunities, but then he puts his lawyer's head on, and then he sort of skirts around an issue. It's like a midfielder making a wonderful pass to a striker, and then the forward goes and skies it. Doesn't hit the back of the net whatsoever. Doesn't hit the goal at all, or anywhere near the goal. Totally, he's like a forward that's totally off target. That's all I've got to say, really. I mean, you make these videos and you rant on, and it's just a sign of the times. I mean, I'm sure most of you think, bloody hell, that fucking idiot, he's repeating himself. But it's what you do, isn't it? It's just, it's monotony, it's boredom, it's all the Peter Mandelson stuff that's going on. In other words, all the shit, you can't take anything as factual these days, really, other than we have this really strong super variant that we were led to believe was nothing initially, and now it's turned into the worst variant there's ever been. And I'll have a bet with everybody on YouTube, and that's that we will still have COVID by the time 2025 comes around. So we've got just over 3 years, haven't we? And I bet you we've still got COVID in 2025. Now that'll be what, 6 years? Coming up 6 years by then? Ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, if we need another vaccine, we need another vaccine. And again, I'm going back to COVID and not politics, but it's just modern society. It's like national correctness. And it's not political correctness, but it's national correctness. And people are focusing, on the wrong issues. Anyway, guys and girls, ladies and gents, thanks for listening to me. And hopefully you will start liking these videos, because I will say so myself. I know it's blowing my own trumpet, but if you do give them a watch, give them a listen, give them a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing. You never know, you might, I've got all sorts on here up to now, a mixture of everything. It's only me, a regular guy, just having a rant. But like, share, subscribe, and keep watching them. Thanks for listening. Ta-da now.